Thank you for attending the City of North St. Paul 7th Avenue Street and Utility Improvement Projects. We're going to turn the presentation over to our city engineers and project team to take us through the developments of this project.
Well, thank you, Carrie, and thank you for those who have dialed in, and for project staff, city staff. I'll ask if you can maybe turn your cameras on really quickly for introductions. But myself, I'm Morgan Dawley. I'm the City of North St. Paul city engineer. And also with me is Carrie Erpenbach, the City of North St. Paul Communications Director, Director of Public Works, Ron Ritchie, and Public Works Superintendent Randy Miller, and also the project manager with the city's consultant WSB, Paul Hornby. And so I will run through a presentation here with a couple intro things just before we get started, and we'll get through a general presentation. I know that there's some folks in the audience, but we're also recording this for the benefit of folks that maybe were not able to make this meeting, so they can access this on the project page on the city's website and in the future. So we'll try to run through the presentation and get right to Q&A at the end, and certainly happy to answer any questions. You can get those into the chat or raise your hand, but we might want to just get through kind of the prepared presentation slides so we can get to Q&A at the end. So as I mentioned, this, as Carrie mentioned, as this meeting is the construction meeting for the 7th Avenue Street and Utility Improvement Project for the City of North St. Paul. Construction is just getting going. Contractor has just done a few activities here the last few days, just weather dependent. But we anticipate that this is going to be an improvement for an extension of an improvement to downtown on 7th Avenue, which is North St. Paul's main street, as you all know. Which is just getting going and anticipated to last throughout the year here. Just a couple tips, technicalities and technical tips for how these types of virtual webinar meetings go. There is a chat function, so you should be able to see that at the bottom of your screen if you're logged in on your computer, and you can use that to type your name, your address, provide an email address for us to add you to email communications in the future if you haven't already signed up. There is a Q&A function, so you can use the Q&A to ask a question at any point during the meeting. And as I mentioned before, we might try to get to the end, and so we can kind of handle all of those questions together for folks that might have them. And no question is, big or small, is off limits. Certainly, we want to try to help people as much as we can. And there might be a need for follow-up after this presentation as well, too, which we certainly will make people available for that as necessary. And there's also a raise hand function, right? So if you don't want to type things into the Q&A box or the chat, you can certainly raise that. We'll raise your hand. The project team will get a little notification on their screen. We'll know that there is a question there. And once we get to the appropriate part in the meeting, we'll turn your microphone on, we'll open it up, and we'll just be able to talk back and forth. You can ask your questions verbally. We can have a conversation at that point. So really quickly, I think one of the most important things we've been trying to communicate out to everyone, and it's not just the downtown area. So we really put this out kind of far and wide, several blocks in different directions to the people that are in and around the project area. But the best way to get real-time ongoing alerts is to sign up for project alerts through the city's overall project alert and communication system that it uses for all different things, not just these construction projects. But a really easy way to remember that is that it's just northstpaul.org/alerts. And there is an easy way to get to that from the home page as well. You just scroll down and sign up for alerts. And if you select the 7th Avenue Street and Utility Improvement Project section there, you'll be able to enter your information. And that will set us up to be able to get you every update every time there is something to be able to communicate out. Another way that you can sign up without using the city's website is to send a text, and standard rates do apply, of course, as we usually hear when we sign up for these types of things. But if you text 7th Ave, so 7 THAVE to 38276, you'll wind up going through some of the similar prompts again as you might with the website to sign up for updates. And if you're having problems, it's okay. You can call 651-747-2400 or send an email to projects@northstpaul.org. And Carrie or one of her staff will try to help you walk through kind of the process of getting signed up for these alerts. And these alerts can be, well, generally they're no less frequent than once a week, but we do send things out that might be every day, depending on what the contractor is doing. If there's something that we really need to get out there same day, or to prepare folks for the next day on these types of projects, sometimes during certain points we've sent out daily updates, but generally they're once a week. And if you do have questions, or you have something kind of a more immediate nature, you'd like some help, or maybe some consultation, kind of like at your front door or at your property or at your driveway, something that's specific, you can make kind of initial phone contact with our project staff. And the first person, who I don't think he's probably out in the field working right now, but Mark Lynch is our primary contact, our construction observer, and North St. Paul City construction representative assigned to the project. He has a lot of experience within the city, actually born and raised in North St. Paul, so he happens to know a lot of folks in and around the area. He has the benefit of going through the experience on the 2020 project, which was centered kind of generally around Margaret and 7th Avenue. So he's familiar with the businesses, he's familiar with the area, and he's an expert in construction. So he's always going to be your best first phone call if you need to get some information, convey some information, or you need a quick question. Now, it's generally going to be fairly easy for him to get back to folks within the same day. A lot of times, he might even be just 15 minutes away, and can, especially if you live on the project, or if you have a business on the project, he can swing by without too much trouble, relatively easy on most working days. So if the contractor is working, Mark's generally out there, and his days off are generally the same days off as the contractor's days off, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But he's always going to be your best first person. Back up to that is going to be our project engineer, Kyle Hoff. I don't know if he's dialed in yet, but Kyle is an engineer that works at WSB with Paul Hornby, who I introduced earlier. So his number is on the screen as well too. And Paul Hornby is kind of a third contact, who's the project manager. His number is represented as well. All those folks will be willing to help. But usually, I guess 95% of the time, Mark is able to kind of handle most things, or if he needs help, he'll contact one of the other folks on the screen. And I'm always available too, and my information is available at City Hall too. So those are the ways that you can get in touch with project contacts. How we're going to try to do this is I'm going to try to get through the presentation, which isn't too long, just some kind of basic information about the project if you haven't already heard that, and I'll run through some frequently asked questions. We have found that a lot of folks have similar or the same questions on most projects, construction projects, so we'll try to run through that information to see if we can maybe answer some of those questions if possible ahead of time, and then we'll just kind of open it up for what might be more specific questions that you might have, and myself or some of the other project staff, city staff, will try to answer those at this meeting. And if we can't, or if it's something that we need to follow up with you afterwards, we'll try to get that conversation started here, and we will wrap that up with follow-up afterwards. That's always an option and something that we're always happy to do. So where are we talking about it? You may have already seen communication that has been sent out by the city regarding this ahead of time. There have been several kind of bulletins and updates that have been going around for some time that this was coming up, but we are now here at the start of construction. So just in review, during the 2023 construction season, what we're looking at for this project is primarily centered on 7th Avenue from about First Street to about 500 feet to the east past Helen Street, and then Helen Avenue or Helen Street from Seppala down to 4th, And then we will be doing some paving in the alley behind 7th that comes out there at the intersection of 4th and Helen as well too. So as you can see on the map, that's generally the area that the project is going to include improvements on. And now they're not going to work in every single area of the project at every given time, any given time, and so things will move around a bit, but that's where the improvements are focused within, is that area highlighted in red on the map on the screen. Oh, I should go back there. There's a bullet point. I should have mentioned that this is again 2023. There will be some work in 2024. So some of the final paving, we always leave kind of a layer off, just from a protection measure, to make sure that we don't have to redo something preemptively in terms of cutting through the final layer of asphalt. So we'll do some final paving, a little bit of sidewalk work, potentially some landscaping in 2024, but fairly minor and nothing that will typically require closing any roads or anything. So that's kind of that's what's expected, and that's typical of every project. There's some minor work left for the following year after the main year of work. So the general approach that the contractor will be using to get at this project is that initially they set up what we call traffic control. So that includes some signage and detour signs, some barricades to kind of direct people or keep people out, really for safety reasons, from areas that will be important to follow. And we always encourage everybody to really pay attention to those signs and really respect them. Again, it is a safety issue both for the public, but also for the contractor as well too. And we understand that sometimes it may be tempting to move around those, but we want people to realize that, you know, those things are there for safety reasons. And if there is a concern or a need from a business standpoint, we'll talk about this a little bit more in the future about where the barricades are. You know, that's a conversation that we want to have with you, right? We're willing to understand what your situation is. Maybe you have a specific special delivery or something that you need to see if it's possible to work with the city and the city's contractor on. That's probably the safest thing to do, is to try to anticipate that, call ahead and have that conversation. But again, for safety reasons, be very respectful and hopefully, follow the traffic control as best as you possibly can during the life of the project. The next thing they'll do is they're going to be hooking up temporary water services. So it's the same water that everybody is connected to now. It's just from a temporary standpoint, the pipes are above ground. And that is what we do while we replace the underground pipes within the project area. And then the contractor will be moving from one type of work to the next, meaning underground, and then above ground improvements, meaning building the road kind of in an orderly, timely fashion, and from one area to the next as well too. And as we get information in terms of where the contractor will be working specifically, as it might impact people in and around the project area, that will be part of the information that will be shared in the project progress and timeline updates that I mentioned earlier, that typically will be about once a week, but maybe more often as we go through the construction project. So kind of big scheduled dates here to just keep in mind. And this is all weather dependent. We in Minnesota, unfortunately, have some weather that potentially can impact construction. And, rain is certainly a big part of that, as we're seeing right now too. And so that may move some of these dates a little bit, but we don't anticipate them to move significantly. We just want people to, manage expectations, to know that they can never be written in stone. But basically starting this week, we have a key milestone here, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, but we want by September 11th, we want the 7th Avenue to be open to traffic. We have the Fall Roundup Parade shortly after that. So that's a very important event for the city. And so that's something that we want to have happen, even with some weather accommodations, right? So that we're going to work really hard to make that happen. So no issues with the parade. As far as substantial completion, and that's That's a technical contract term, substantial completion. That doesn't mean that everything is done. As I mentioned, there are some things that happen the following year, which is that next line on the slide there for end of June of 2024. But really, we expect that most of the work will be done by Halloween of 2023. There might be some minor punch list things, but also it might be that those things are buttoned up for the season as much as possible. You know, we may be missing some landscaping, or maybe there's a couple bare areas that are anticipated to get some sod or grass, that it will be, you know, probably smarter to wait until 2024 for that to have happen. But generally, everything should be put back together by that October 2023 timeframe date. So let's get into some of the frequently asked questions. So what exactly is being done with this project? And so this is a continuation of some of the improvements that started in 2020 downtown at the Margaret 7th Ave intersection. And we're kind of moving a little bit to the west, as I mentioned on that map earlier, down to First Street. Really, we're looking for safer, smoother, and more structurally stable streets. So 7th Avenue was constructed in the 70s. It's pretty much lived its life cycle, is ready for replacement. And so we're looking at replacing that pavement on 7th Avenue. That's concrete pavement. So very similar, well, exactly the same as what we saw in 2020. So not only the concrete pavement, also the asphalt pavement on some of the side streets, Helen and those little areas adjacent to Sepulveda and 4th Avenue and the intersection, and also the alley that I mentioned behind 7th Avenue. So that's asphalt paving. Concrete curb and gutter. We've got some sidewalks that are to be replaced, and some sidewalk and walking pedestrian improvements in and around the area as well too. There are some drainage improvements that will help from occasional temporary floodings that might happen during some rain events. So we're actually improving the capacity of our drainage and storm sewer system from what it was previously. So that will be a benefit to the project area. Better drainage, I think, will also extend the lifespan of some of these new pavements and new roads that are going in now. So that should hopefully extend the life cycle for this particular reset on the infrastructure clock for this section of roadway. And we're also doing some capacity upsizing and reconstruction on the existing water main. So that's a drinking water and firefighting improvement, right? And firefighting and hydrant flow capabilities downtown are certainly important, just as they are in residential areas, but we've got different standards that we're trying to maintain in a downtown area as well too, because of the fact that it's a downtown commercial area for the city. So we know that the construction is certainly an inconvenience. We acknowledge that, we recognize that. We know it's sometimes challenging or difficult to change routines, change how you get to places that you're going to, or leave places that you're going to. We're certainly no stranger to those, and we've all experienced them, I think, in Minnesota, knowing when things are under construction. We have had to adjust to those, and we try to make every effort possible to make this as less of an inconvenience as possible. We can't sugarcoat a construction project and certainly make this so that it's under traffic all the time, for example, because if we're able to kind of do the best we can to allow the contractor as much room and as much safety as possible, meaning, for example, the closure of the roads, that means that they can get in and out sooner. And so we want this to be done by the fall parade, and we want to give the contractor room to move around. We want to work with you folks on maybe if we need to make adjustments, or if we need to know about deliveries and that sort of thing. There may be things that we can work with you on, but for safety purposes, we want to make sure that what we do here is really in the interest of getting things done as fast as possible, and that's always the case. So that is the work that is being proposed. I have already talked about some of the updates, so I won't go through that again, but I'll encourage everybody to please make sure that they with using one of the methods that they sign up for these updates, because that's really the best way we can get you that information so that you know what's going on in ahead of time, hopefully proactively, as much as we know, or at least as we're being told by the contractor. We usually get updates from them on a regular basis, and those are the updates that from the contractor that we pass along to the public. So this next question is about driveways. So generally, the driveways along 7th Avenue, because 7th Avenue will be closed to traffic. So those driveways will not be accessible for the duration of the project and can't be used until 7th Avenue is reopened. But if there are other driveways, we know some of the properties in and around the area do have alternate access over off some of the side streets. So those certainly will remain available and through the project, and it's just only any driveway that's off of 7th Avenue that will be impacted. When construction is happening right in front of that driveway, some of the concrete work that is completed needs time to cure, and so even if there is availability from a traffic standpoint, those concrete areas will be kind of taped off or allowed to cure before vehicles can drive on it, to prevent it from cracking and to lengthen the lifespan of that driveway apron. And as you may be seeing right now, as this is kind of just starting right now, some of the pavement, driveway pavement, the aprons will be removed at the beginning. And for things that will be usable, the contractor can install or will install some temporary gravel surfacing so that vehicles can travel over that area, even though the pavement has been removed. And there might be short periods usually during a day or days, where even these accessible driveways that might have a temporary surface to drive on, they might not be available. And that will be something that will be coordinated on a site-by-site, property-by-property basis with our construction team and the contractors, so that there is some advance notification and some preparation could be done on that. But that'll be mostly just so the contractor can work right there in that location. And we'll try to have the contractor minimize those times and periods as much as possible. We can, if we know some things from, from the property owner about what are the best times or what are the best days, we can try to, coordinate that and work with the contractor on that as much as possible to minimize that inconvenience. But again, once they get in they'll be able to get out as a little bit faster. And so again, that will be kind of the goal. So if you do have kind of questions, concerns, certainly the project team is going to want to hear from you on those driveway things. And if we can make accommodations, we certainly will. We have gotten some questions about this next one already, so I'll review it. So the question is, can entire driveways be replaced as part of the project? And usually that it makes common sense, right? So if the city's doing a job that includes paving, for example, and you've got a parking lot that might not be a part of the project, but you might think that, hey, can I work something out? Can the city come and do that? Now, the work that the city will do, that's already a part of the project, is really just kind of limited to within the street area. So like I mentioned before, it might be that driveway apron or kind of the ramp up to the driveway or ramp up to the parking lot, but not necessarily into the parking lot. So, you could, as a property owner, and if you're interested, I mean, we can try to share information with you. There could be a private arrangement made between a property owner and a contractor. It could be a different contractor, or if the contractor is open to it, as a side job, it could be the same contractor that the city is working with. And if you're interested in, who is the asphalt paving contractor, because they're not out there right now, we can share that information with you. But if that private, arrangement or contract, if you will, between a property owner and, a paving contractor is something that you would like to pursue, please let us know. Even if you're thinking of using your own contractor, it would be something that we'd want to be aware of and try to, communicate back and forth in terms of what's the right time. We certainly don't want to do something that's going to make it more difficult for someone to work on their own parking lot, for example, even though generally during the project might be a good time, but it might be good to have that conversation so that we can advise in terms of what's going to be best for you and what's going to be best for the city, so that nobody damages each other's efforts, inordinately by not talking about it ahead of time. So if you're thinking about that, please reach out. If there's information that we can share or provide, contact information for contractors that might be open to that, we certainly will do that to the best of our ability. Yeah, so I think I guess it mentions that typically there might be some permitting that is necessary on the part of the city if you are planning on doing a new driveway beyond, what the city might be replacing, or a parking lot, for example. So please check with the city on what the appropriate permits are for that kind of work. I think it's fairly straightforward. I don't want to say that it's called a parking lot permit, but the folks at City Hall are very knowledgeable and willing to help. And so if that's something that you're looking for, they will be able to help you or direct your contractor to the right permits that are required for that type of work to happen on private property outside of the project area. The next question is, how much will be replaced? I kind of alluded to this already. Really, the extent of the project is not going to be outside of the general city public right-of-way area. We'll be matching into driveways and parking lots kind of very close to that line, which is generally about the back of the sidewalk. It mentions here about 5 feet behind the curb, but it is kind of different on every street. So I guess I don't want to say that it's a specific distance. If you have questions or you want to know more, we can have Mark Lynch or one of our other project staff meet with you out at your property and take a look at things so you understand exactly kind of where that match point or that interface between what the city's going to remove and replace and what will stay the same. We'll try to minimize that as much as possible, as it mentions here in the answer to the question. Where's the edge of the right of way? As I mentioned, that does vary. It is specifically measured out here that so along 7th Avenue, it's actually 100 feet wide. And along the side streets, it's I think there's some variation, but it's about 60 feet wide. And so again, this is not an exact representation, but usually on the back of the sidewalk, it could be right on the back of the sidewalk or a foot off or so behind the sidewalk. That's about where the right-of-way line is on 7th Avenue. But it is different in different areas of downtown and different blocks even on 7th Avenue and different streets. So if you have questions or if you have any concerns, please let us know. In some instances, we might be working with folks on specific areas where there's a right of entry form that Mark Lynch can work with you on. And so that would be something that we would come to property owners on if necessary for like a water shutoff that would need to be installed or something else. But that might not necessarily be everybody either. So that's on a case-by-case basis. So there would be some individual conversations with property owners if that's necessary. Will mail and package delivery be affected, and how will garbage service be affected? So the first part in terms of mail or deliveries. So we have been in touch with the post office. We're not anticipating that there's going to be any interruption of mail service at this time. However, the postmaster is kind of in charge of things. In past projects, we do have to follow their direction. And if they do make some changes, we'll try, as soon as we hear about them, we will communicate those out using our update system to the rest of the public. For now, we're not anticipating or hearing of any interruptions or changes with mail delivery in and around the project area. And that would be the same for, deliveries, FedEx, UPS, anybody else. If folks do hear from their, from FedEx, for example, that they're unable to make a delivery, and that needs to be rescheduled, please let us know. And so not only let us know for that specific delivery, but I think it helps us make sure that we understand how people are perceiving our barricades and traffic control. And it could be a communication issue, it could be something that could be coordinated, or it could be an adjustment, right? And so like I said, we want the contractor to be able to finish the job as fast as possible, but we also want to be able to understand how people are perceiving things, how they're using those detours and barricades. And if we do need to make adjustments, that's something that we want to take into consideration if we can. So if there's problems with the delivery, or you didn't get something that you want, by a specific time, or there is something that you expect to be delivered that is very, very, very important, please let us know ahead of time, and we'll do everything we can to try to make sure that you get that, or that your delivery vendor is able to get that done the way that you want it, to the best of our ability. Same thing with trash. So trash pickup is going to be on the same days that it normally occurs. Contractor is required to provide some assistance, right? And so that is built into our expectations of the project and our expectations of the city's contractor. Sometimes there needs to be adjustments back and forth. Early on in the project, we're contractor is still trying to get the right system set up, and so maybe the first week or the first couple weeks, we might see some things that need to be kind of tweaked or changed. If you let us know what's working, not working, or what's easiest for you, or what is not possible from your standpoint, that helps us work with the contractor to try to find a solution that is going to be the best possible thing, so that we can have trash functioning through the project, through the summer, the best possible setup. And most times, like I said, there might be some adjustments early on, but once we kind of get it set, then it tends to be relatively simple, and should be a fairly minimal impact or change to most people. There is a reference here to a detour route and parking and delivery access routes, which I think might be on the next slide, which I'll switch to here. I'll talk a little bit about this. This is a map that we're sharing publicly with the project area, making sure that the school district knows about it, post office, for example, as many different people as we can share this with too. This is kind of the official detour route and closure area. Closure is shown in red. The green kind of loop around that project area is shown in green. We've got some in orange identified parking, delivery, garbage access. We're also talked with the school district as well too about using some of those orange routes for pickups and drop-offs while 7th Avenue is closed. So those are generally the areas that have been identified for some of these different uses that we've talked about. And there are some areas to turn around, such as the end of Helen. There's some parking lot areas to turn around, or I guess parking areas that can be used for turnarounds. So we feel, again, that from a kind of official and starting point, that this is what's best from a safety and giving the contractor the best opportunity to finish things up by the fall roundup parade. But again, I want to emphasize that if there is a problem, if we know about it, and there might be something that we can adjust, whether it's on an individual one-time basis, or if we have a regular understanding of deliveries, knowing that this is a downtown area with commercial kitchens and that sort of thing. Like I said, deliveries, or maybe even special events, right? We want to try to make sure that we can get the construction project done. But if we know about your special event, there might be some assistance or advice that we can share with you to try to help things go as best as possible. So this important map, again, this is what we're sharing with the public. And if there's folks with businesses or properties in and around the project area, I would encourage you to share this information or direct folks that might be your vendors or your patrons to the city's website or the city's information, again, so that they have this available, so they know that, as I mentioned before, a better part of the summer here, that this is what's going to be in place. And that's for safety reasons and to try to get things done as fast as possible. But again, if you do have concerns, please let us know. And we'll see what we can do if there's some adjustments that need to happen. But this will be what we are going to strive for a starting point, and for probably most of the project, with some very minor exceptions, as I mentioned, that we certainly want to hear about if they are needed or requested. So residential customer access, as I mentioned, so there's a couple things that I'll just go through. So on 4th Avenue, the apartments on 7th Avenue east of Helen should be able to access their residences via Margaret Street coming along 4th Avenue or the Margaret Street alley. the apartments would need to use 4th Avenue east of the project limits for parking until the alley work is finished. However, I think the alley work is going to be fairly be towards the end of the project, right? And so and maybe Paul, can I put you on the spot here? Can you talk a little bit about the timing of the alley work? I'm sorry, if hopefully you got the ability to turn your mic on and just talk about the alley for the benefit of the apartments, just really briefly, so we've got that.
Yeah, so the two things that'll happen in the alley is really there's a storm drain back there we're going to replace and provide more capacity for drainage back there. I think that's been a long time drainage issue to take care of. So we don't have to go back too far to do that storm sewer work. We are planning to repave the alley all the way up to the new apartment building where the developer left off last year. So that's just north of, say, the chiropractor in the office in the alley. So we'll remove that existing pavement that's deteriorated and we'll replace that. So it's not something that's going to be closed and under excavation the entire time of the project. It'll be more or less storm sewer that'd be in and out of there in a day, to be honest. And then the pavement work could come back in later. So the goal would be to get the apartment parking areas accessible by the end of each workday.
Right. And so, yeah, the storm sewer would be near, we don't have an exact date, but that'll be near the front end of the project, maybe 1 day's worth of work, maybe 2. Gravel driving surface for most of the project duration, and then paving towards the end. And usually as soon as it's paved, you can drive on it, right? So that's generally kind of how we're going to handle the alley. So that'll be a good kind of backup to 7th Avenue there for the folks in the apartments. And sidewalks that we do have to remove, they'll be walkable, certainly with temporary gravel for most of the project, with maybe some minor exceptions. But when we do pour the new concrete, we're definitely going to want people to not walk on it right away for 24 hours so we can avoid footprints, which sometimes happen. But when that happens, that costs the city money. That concrete needs to be removed and replaced. So please keep an eye on folks that might be tempted to leave their mark on city sidewalk. That's something that we want to try to avoid. So we'll just have to watch out for wet concrete. Usually after it's been cured for 24 hours, it's certainly walkable. And as I mentioned before, with some of that driveway work, if it's vehicles, that we'll need usually at least 5 days, if not maybe longer, to have that concrete cured to the strength that it's able to be driven on. Okay, work hours. So Monday through Friday, this is for any construction project in the city of North St. Paul. They've not changed in many, many years, to my knowledge. So Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is an option. I don't think we've heard, Paul, tell me if I'm wrong, but usually contractors don't typically utilize Saturdays. Are they planning on doing any Saturday work on this project? Do we know?
Right now, I don't think that they are planning to do that, but I think they're planning to put in, longer days to try to, they've got an aggressive schedule. So they want to get, just like business owners and residents in the area, the contractor wants to get in, get their work done and get out as well. So they've got a pretty aggressive schedule. But right now, I don't think they're planning to work Saturdays unless they have lost days due to weather. Then they may go Saturday. So
that's a good point. And sometimes those weather days do add up as we go throughout the project timeline. It just kind of depends on how many rain days we have, right? So it depends on if it's a wetter year or a drier year. So that's something that we will include in updates. If we do think that we're hearing about some weekend work, Saturday work, we'll communicate that out with our updates. Typically, and as required, unless there's emergency or very special permission granted because of something that is problematic, no work on Sundays or holidays. And that would be, federal or city holidays, I think is what we're using here as a basis for a holiday day. Well, the areas of my lawn, and I know we don't have lawns in every area of the project, but if they're disturbed, will they be replaced? We're not expecting a lot of disturbance on the grassed areas, but if they are, they will be replaced. Some of the boulevards on 7th will be removed entirely and resodded. And contractors responsible for some of that maintenance, depending on the area or the property for the first 30 days. That's just kind of the typical specification that's used by most all cities. And then it's turned over after that initial 30-day period. And that may be by the property owner, or if it's in areas that are maintained by the city may be involved on a case-by-case basis. But we will be sending out information in terms of when that transition period from contractor responsibility to either private or other responsibility, when that transition happens. And we're tracking those 30 days carefully from the date of installation. So that's just so that folks know that it's only for a very short period of time, shorter than you would think. I think that the contractor is responsible for that side. Landscaping features, lawn irrigation systems, how are we going to handle that? So contractor tries to protect most of those things, small retaining walls, landscape features, things that might be within a yard or even within the right of way, if they can be protected. Certainly some of the underground things, if the contractor doesn't know about them, it's difficult for the contractor to protect them, right? So please, if you do have an irrigation system, or if you've got a underground invisible dog fence or something else, please reach out using the information provided earlier in the meeting and let one of our folks know, and we'll let the contractor know, or mark them with flags or in some other fashion so that there's some identification or knowledge that there's something that the contractor will need to be careful of. And if we see some flags or we see some markings that we're not sure about, we'll certainly try to knock on doors and ask and try to deal with that appropriately or protect it appropriately. If you do have things that you want to just, take out of the way, some people have plantings that they would like to save. That is an option that you can repot those or take them out ahead of time. And we'd encourage folks to do that as soon as possible. And if in the unfortunate instance that you think something was damaged, like an irrigation line or invisible dog fence, please contact the construction folks. Mark Lynch with the phone number that was provided earlier in the meeting is probably the best first contact, so we can make a note of that. And we will work with the contractor to get that repaired in some fashion as long as we know about it. So if you notice something, please let us know. Okay, so we did already talk about special deliveries and events, and I encouraged everybody to know that, we are here to listen and to take comment. And if we can take things into consideration or work with the contractor, we certainly want to be open to that. We can't promise everything, certainly, but the more that we know, the more that we could possibly do. So please let us know about special deliveries or pickups or events or other things that might be really important, for businesses. Again, kind of maybe set schedules for food or beverage delivery, that sort of thing. I think that's going to be good for our project staff to understand and know when they're going to happen, and allow us and our contractor and the city staff to work more effectively with you all on that as well too. I can confirm that, going back many years on multiple projects, but including this one, the city has been working directly with the car show folks so that event is not going to be canceled. It will proceed. Obviously, there'll be adjustments with the event because of the project, just as there was back in 2020, 2021. But we again hope, we anticipate that 7th Avenue is going to be open to traffic prior to the Fall Roundup Parade on September 14th. So that's a very important date for the city, and that's what we're going to hold the contractor to in terms of what we need to do. Construction vehicles and materials. Sometimes on construction sites, you see things like temporary storage of pipe, or maybe precast concrete manhole sections before they get installed underground. Really, the contractor has the right-of-way area available, or the area that is maybe barricaded, again, closed to traffic. That's where they have to store that. And there may be some places where, such as the empty parking lot, corner of 7th Avenue and Helen Street, that might be used for some storage and staging. But there should not be a significant amount of disturbance on, well, there will be none on private property and no blocking of access, but everything should be contained within the project site itself. If you do notice anything of concern, vehicular, even if it's temporary in nature and it's a problem, please reach out to project staff, let us know. Sometimes we can just get on the phone and have the contractor make an adjustment or move something if it's easily done and it's kind of temporary in nature. But definitely from an overnight standpoint or regular storage of materials or vehicles, our expectation is the contractor is going to respect those areas outside the project area and certainly private property as well. This last question is about my business includes manufacturing machinery that is very sensitive to vibrations, and construction vehicles can create a high level of vibrations. How is my business being protected from this risk? So this is maybe most specifically to Reflex Medical at 2487th Avenue. So we do know that, but it could be any business really, or any building or structure in and around the project area. We know that sometimes during construction, you can feel vibrations with some of the equipment moving around of things. Contractors aware of that and aware of the concerns. And actually the city has built into the project the requirement of vibration monitoring equipment to be in and around the area, including Reflex Medical. Contractor has installed this equipment, performed kind of a pre-start or pre-construction survey of the area to establish existing conditions. So there's a starting point understanding of the condition, and if the equipment senses any sort of vibrations that are higher than allowable levels, contractor gets that notification and they're required to shut things down, address kind of maybe the potential approach or the equipment they're using, and get things into conformance with respect to vibrations. So that's hopefully a preemptive measure that is being implemented on this particular project to provide some prevention along those lines. But if there are concerns or questions, just because things are within allowable tolerances from a vibration standpoint doesn't mean that folks might not feel them occasionally, and that's normal. But if you do have concerns, please, contact the project folks and let us know, and that will certainly be something that we'll want to check into. But the vibration monitoring equipment that is being used does provide notifications in real time as soon as anything is outside of tolerance. And so that's something that we're doing behind the scenes on our own, or that the contractor is doing behind the scenes. But if you do have you feel something that you're concerned about, you think it's maybe a little bit more than you would expect, or you have any concerns, I'd rather hear about it than not hear about it and have folks just concerned or unhappy about it. So we know it's a sensitive topic and a sensitive subject. We're trying to build in those mitigations and those protections in the project, but please let us know if there's any concerns. And we expect that we have in past projects that we get through it without too much trouble, and I would expect that this project is going to be similar to past projects for us. So that concludes the frequently asked questions. I think I'll open this up to any kind of free form or specific questions that anyone in the audience might have. Again, you can type something in the Q&A, you can raise your hand. You could type something in the chat, and I'm not watching those, so I'm hoping that Carrie maybe can see those. But if anybody has a specific question, please feel free to do any one of those three things. We'd be happy to answer those questions at this time.
Sure, we have one question that came through us at chat. We have a resident requesting detour due to increased speed and traffic around Penn Place. I did email the details to both you and Paul. So if we could take a look at that traffic control to see what we can do to help them with that issue, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, that's good feedback. And so I think that what I'm anticipating that means, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have people cutting through Penn Place coming off of 7th Avenue, or maybe going to 7th Avenue from is that 4th up there, the next street north. And so, yes, that's something that we'll want to look at. And I appreciate that comment. That's very good for us to know. You guys are right there, eyes and ears. And if you're letting us know what's happening, then that may allow us to be able to make an adjustment, provide some signage, hopefully keep people's speeds down. If they're able to move through the area, we don't want them to try to move too fast just because they're going around a construction project. That's not fair to the folks that live there. So.
Morgan, maybe one thing I can add into is that we were made aware of this a couple days ago, and we've ordered some additional signs to actually put barricades on Penn Place that would say no through traffic, just to
Okay.
try to help that. But cars will be able to get around the barricade just because folks in that area need to get in and out as well. But we want to try to limit who's going in and out of there and make sure it's not any part of the detour. So.
Okay, good. Just to discourage cut through traffic, right, Paul?
Correct.
So,
Yes.
okay, good. Well, so there you go. So real-time adjustments and updates, but appreciate the question and comment now. We'll put that in place, which will be a good kind of first adjustment, and we'll have to just monitor it. And please keep us posted throughout the project what you folks are seeing out there.
Yeah, they're requesting detour signage to direct vehicles onto First Street South from 7th Avenue. So if that helps any more of the traffic control, that's what's coming into us through chat.
Okay, yeah, we can take a look at that as well.
One other thing, since I know a lot of the purpose of this meeting is for businesses as well that are in that area. We have ordered some additional business access signs to be placed around to help clarify how people get from a different direction into, for instance, on the west side, how do you get back to the north side of the businesses on Cephala, between 7th and Cephala. So we've also ordered some additional signs there as well. And then also from the east side at Cephala and Margaret, that we enhanced the signing there. Those, I would anticipate signage will be placed in the next week for those. That's more of a custom sign that we've ordered. So.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay,
And
with that, we don't have any other questions coming in. You must have done a great, thorough presentation for us. So I'll let you close it out, Morgan.
All right. Well, just thanks to everyone, and thank you to the staff for the city and for the project. And thank you to the public for your patience and understanding as we work through these infrastructure improvements. Can be inconvenient, but we'll try to get through it as fast as we can in a safe manner. And please stay in touch. So you can always email what's on your screen here, projects@northstpaul.org. Or again, your best first contact is Mark Lynch at 612-289-1304. And if we need to get other folks involved, we certainly will. So on behalf of the project team and the city of North St. Paul, thank you for coming tonight. And we'll look forward to a safe and productive project for the 7th Avenue Street and Utility Improvement Project. Thank you all.